Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shannon Q. Today, I am going to be hosting an episode of Women of Deconversion with some of my favorite ladies who are here to join us. We're going to have a conversation about how to engage in complex conversations and dialogues, and I'm really excited about it. So first, before we get going, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. We're going to be having a conversation about how to conduct complex dialogues and some of the challenges that we've come up against and some of the strategies that we've employed that we've found successful, in the hopes that it may help you in the same sort of situations. So also, sorry, before I get going, generally, the Women of Deconversion, which I am a part of, is usually hosted the first Monday of every month on the Secular Hangouts channel. And the Secular Hangouts channel, along with the channels of all of the women who are participants, and we have a few that are not here this evening. Unfortunately, we do not have Rachel and we do not have Courtney, but their links are in the description as well. Please go check out all of their channels and go subscribe to Secular Hangouts so that you can see more of these conversations. As I said, they are the first Monday of every month. So I will turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves, and I'll start with you, Christine.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine. We've been doing Secular Hangouts for like 8 months now, and Heather and I run, she'll introduce herself in a sec. We do a podcast called Forsaking Faith that is in distress right now, but we will be putting the ER paddles on it soon. But yeah, we basically want to just explore the ideas of what it means to go through the emotional process of deconversion, because a lot of discussion out there is about the semantics and the rage, and there are a lot of things that are out there. So we like to explore both being grateful for a past, but also kind of coming to grips with some of the things that we grew up with in that changing process. So, yeah, I am so happy to be here. Shannon, thank you for hosting. And yeah, we hope to see you in the future at Secular Hangouts.
Awesome. All right. And next I will turn to you, Heather. Go ahead.
Hi. So yes, as Christine said, I'm Christine's better half in terms of the podcast. No, I'm not really better. I'm her other half. Anyway, I also co-host Forsaking Faith. I am a now 30-something-year-old living in somewhere in the southeast region of the United States. And we, as Christine already explained, Forsaking Faith is really a podcast where we try to explore the sort of nuanced emotional journey of deconversion. So thank you. Oh, and I apologize. That is my cat. My cat is also introducing herself, apparently. Sorry about that.
Interesting cats just go together perfectly.
Unless we have Mrs. Snarky. Miss Snarky, let everybody know who you are and where they can find you.
Well, howdy, y'all. I'm Mrs. Snarky. I am the other half to Godless Iowans channel sometimes. And I have my own channel, of course, where lately I've been delving into philosophy, and sometimes I do response videos. Mainly it's just me talking about things that I'm interested in. So, yeah. And I've also been a part of this project since pretty much the beginning, and it's been wonderful. I love these ladies so much. This is a great project.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to throw it over to Christine, who generally leads these conversations. I'm going to relinquish the reins on my channel to Christine so that she can start off the conversation for us. So please, Christine, go ahead.
So Shannon has actually been absent. She was absent last month from our Women of Deconversion. So this is how I sneakily got her to.
No, I would have been here.
No, I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. No. That's totally.
Paul had a debate. It's not my fault. I was.
No, it's not your fault. I know that. I know it's not your fault. So, so today, we're going to talk about the idea came about, actually. Courtney was discussing this because we hang out on Facebook like weirdos from the 90s. when we're not on secular hangouts together, because we wouldn't be able to last, a month without talking to each other. So we were talking about how it can sometimes be hard to talk to Christians who are maybe in the process of thinking about deconverting, or even those who feel like, you can't get past anything that they they're thinking. Their obstacles are so high and their walls are so high that it's difficult to have those conversations. And I think that lends itself to a lot of different conversations. And I think we wanted to bring that to the table, sort of how hard it was for us to make those kind of transitions, but also just kind of difficult conversations that we've had with people who maybe are atheist and non-atheist. So we're trying to explore the whole spectrum of like what it really means to have difficult conversations in the process of deconversion. So I kind of want to start with for the closest people in your lives, ladies, like, did you have a really hard time either with trying to explain to the people you were who were close to you when you were Christians before you deconverted, your transformation process?
Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely been difficult. And I think I might have said this before in one of our conversations. I actually haven't had that conversation with my parents at all. So I'm still sort of wrestling with how do I approach that with them, but with other family members, it's definitely been difficult. And when I told one of my siblings, she started crying. This was over the phone. So, and like really just genuinely upset for me, because she, genuinely believed that this meant I was going to hell. So, it's definitely been tough. And so I don't necessarily know that. I'm really curious to hear what all of you have to say, and if you have any advice, because I don't know that I've necessarily mastered this skill yet of how to. It is hard. It's like, it is kind of, it's you have to kind of warm the person up, I feel like, and kind of lead into it, and there's sort of like an art to it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah,
I had some difficulty. Like, for example, when my mother was super supportive. My parents are divorced, and my father and his wife were not at all. They still love me and have a relationship with me. However, when they found out, for example, that I had a YouTube channel where these are the type of things that I talked about they told me outright that I was cruel. Cruel is the word that they use. Like, what you're doing is cruel. And I said, I'm talking about what it's like to be an atheist and the intersection of psychology and faith, and what that means to people, and being an advocate for people like me who feel as though they need a voice. I don't understand what about that is cruel, with the exception of the fact that I'm talking about the reasons that I have for having left my faith, and that being perceived as a challenge to you. And I wish I could say that I dealt with it well on a one-on-one personal scenario, but I didn't, because I immediately became emotional in that situation. It's much more easy when I'm on this channel or other channels and I'm interacting with people who don't know me personally. When it's somebody who I'm personally invested in, I have a lot more of a visceral sort of emotional reaction, and I'm a lot less prone to being able or capable of dealing with it as rationally as I would otherwise, in these types of scenarios, when I'm able to kind of be reflective and introspective. It's always one of those scenarios where I walk away and I think, oh, I wish I'd said that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that, definitely.
Same for me when it comes to my family. I came in like a wrecking ball and I argued and I did stuff. And oddly enough, like I found kind of a new normal. It was kind of a thing that wasn't really discussed. When it comes to my mom anyway, sometimes it would come up and she would do like the oh, what do you call it? When you bargain to get into heaven, you pretend to believe to get into heaven, that kind of thing. And she's like, if there's just a 1% chance that, you know, heaven exists and God exists, then you need to believe in this. And I was like,
God won't know you're faking it.
well, yeah,
It's not like it's God.
yeah, right. And I was like, I'm just not convinced. You can't convince me. And with my dad, it was more like, well, she's an atheist, therefore she must be like in cahoots with Hillary Clinton and the Illuminati and all this stuff. He's kind of crazy. So yeah, I don't talk to him, and my mom's been dead over 10 years. So, you know, and most of the family has been like with my husband's family, and we just don't talk about it. We just try to repair the relationship by avoiding the conversation, but also reminding ourselves that we're engaging with human beings, you know. And I think that's the most important thing is, yeah, Pascal's wager. Thank you, Paulogia. But
that's his least favorite thing.
Yeah. If say it, I would. But yeah, that's funny. His least favorite thing.
But yeah, when I was a lot younger and coming out of Christianity, I was really, really angry. So of course I came in emotionally. I came in really charged to talk about this and just kind of, you know, wreck the whole thing. And it wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, because you go in thinking you have so many, like I have all these compelling arguments.
Yeah.
You're compelled. They're just mad you're making them think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear all of that. I mean, Pascal's wager is, you know, a fun one. But other than that, yeah, there is this, it is tough. And Shannon, I think I relate to you a lot in terms of like, I don't care telling other people that I'm, you know, not a Christian anymore is easy when they are close to me. It's like, it doesn't, I have nothing invested in that. But even for the longest time, like I wouldn't say I hid behind it, but I wouldn't, people who are my friends, my close friends who are still Christians, I would just, you know, I'd ask them about their relationships with God. Like, how is your relationship with God going? Because I knew it was important to them. But, you know, in doing that, you know, when they asked me, I was like, well, not great. You know, I don't really believe in him anymore. And then that's where the conversation would kind of stop. You know, it would just be like, okay, then it's done. And I didn't engage as much with those people in terms of these difficult conversations that you can sometimes have where it's like, well, you know, where you bargain, because these people knew, most of them knew how I grew up. You know, they knew I grew up with the same rules that, I mean, we're talking to one of them, you know, like Heather was a Christian like far longer and knew me as a non-Christian, which is crazy now that I think of it. It's like, whoa, I'm talking about Heather. I mean, you know, we weren't as close at the time, but there was an overlap period. Definitely.
Yeah.
Were you guys able to, how were you guys able to keep common ground? Did you just avoid the conversations that pertain to religion at all during that period of time, or were you able to engage? And Heather, what did that feel like for you? Was it because you were kind of on the precipice, or were you even close? That's interesting.
Yeah. I think a lot of it was because I was more on the precipice, but that was because I definitely kept a distance from Christine throughout high school, because she was really open about the fact that she struggled with her faith and was like doubting. And also it was wrapped up in like other, like just lifestyle differences of ours. And I was very judgmental at that point in my life. I mean, I really was like, unless someone is, you know, a gun-ho Christian that's going to be helping me develop as a Christian, I'm not going to be mean, but I'm not going to get really close with them. I think what changed was when I lived with Christine briefly one summer. And at that point, I was still a Christian. I was like starting to doubt, but still identify as a Christian. But we just got close. And that's, I guess, what, you know, one of the things I've learned, life lessons I've learned is that I think one way to address these situations, these difficult conversations, is to just recognize the person's humanity, which I think sounds really simple, but it's actually really hard to do sometimes. And I think I hadn't been doing that with Christine. And when I was sort of forced, in a good way, forced to like actually see her as a human, because I was living with her and interacting with her, that's when we started to become good friends. So we were actually friends for a period when I was still a Christian.
That's interesting. So that personal aspect seems super important, like being able to identify with a person on an individual level, you know, regardless. I almost said irregardless, regardless of what their position is.
Yeah. I mean, do you agree with that, Christy? Like, was that your perception too?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think I cared that much at the time. At that point, I wasn't differentiating between Christians and non-Christians anymore. And so it was pretty easy for me to just kind of accept, you know, whatever, you know, it was just very easy to be like, yeah, no, I'm a human. She's a human. It's so funny because Mrs. Snarky said, you know, you just have to remember that they're human, which is true. But like, what else could they be? It's crazy when we deal with difficult people.
Yeah.
They're part of the out-group.
Forget. Yeah, we forget. Yeah. That's true too.
So too.
That's the thing about this dynamic that you have is you have the in-group, out-group dynamic. And, you know, whenever you have that going on, it's very easy to see, well, this is us and that's them, even when you're like an atheist, you know? So you have to remember, like, I'm a humanist before I'm an atheist. You know, I have these principles that really, really matter to me. And so, and that was kind of the part that had to develop as I was struggling with, you know, trying to re-examine the world coming out of belief, which is really difficult. It's a long process, but you develop these principles and they matter. And you realize, yes, this is the thing that I need to remember, is that they're humans too. And I think that's number one important thing when you're having conversations, unless they're online and they're with trolls. Just say,
right. Then they're not human. They're actually trolls.
Yes.
It's so funny. It's so funny. I think when your own humanity shifts, you find it difficult to see what you were as human still. You know, I think that maybe like,
or even as
like
you.
as
Yeah.
Or even what?
Or even as you.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
You disconnect.
And it's just like, I think that change in your thinking and your attitude makes you think, like, your paradigm basically shifts. And so these difficult conversations arise because you're like, no, I had this epiphany. Where is yours? You know? Yeah. And I think a lot of people that you deal with difficult, you know, conversations can just be like, well, this is obvious to me. You know, and you're like, well, how is it obvious? Like, just teach me like upper level physics. Yeah. And like bring it down to my level, you know, like so.
Yeah.
We get so busy attacking ideas that we forget the fact that ideas live inside people and they identify with those ideas as part of themselves. And they see us as opposition to them because they see those ideas as an intrinsic part of who they are.
Yeah.
So when we come at them, we have to come at them gracefully and with respect and understanding. And we have to peel away that surface carefully or relate our understanding of why we no longer identify with that, very, very softly and gently, especially if it's personal relationships. And even outside of personal relationships, if we don't approach them with a degree, and it depends on your goal. If your goal is to set the world on fire and piss everybody off, then sure, go ahead and do it, I guess, if that's your goal. If your goal is to be able to identify with people and have people understand you and have you be able to come to a better understanding of them or impart your ideas to them, just coming at them saying what you believe is ridiculous and what I believe is better, and I'm smarter than you for figuring it out, and what's wrong with you for not seeing things my way, it's obvious. They're going to just be like, you're a bitch. And now I'm not listening.
Yeah,
definitely. Even if you are right, Shannon.
Even if you present evidence from science, it'll just backfire. It's absolutely just, it's so irritating. It's so difficult to maintain your composure when you're having these conversations. But yeah,
doesn't matter how right what you're saying is. If how you're saying it makes you an asshole, no one's going to listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
I struggle with this as a teacher a lot. And I think especially this is like related, although it's not necessarily just about atheists versus Christians, but other ideas that I encounter or that I hear my students saying that I really disagree with. And it's been something I've had to work really hard on, like, what do I do if a student says something racist in my class, which happens, unfortunately, that kind of thing happens quite frequently. Or other kinds of problematic comments. And it's just, I don't know. So I don't know that I've even figured all of this out, but this is something I think a lot about too. Like what you guys are saying, like, I don't want to just, if I just come at it as you're a terrible human for saying this thing, they're just going to turn it off. At the same time, I need to address it. So, how do I address it in a way where I have that balance where I explain like why this is incorrect, without them feeling like I'm attacking them as a human.
Yeah,
like what's the line between discipline and teaching somebody and coaching?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's hard, especially in a post-election era in the U.S. I think this is more relevant than ever. Like how do you have conversations with people that are, don't share your political views?
Yeah, there's a lot of context and nuance that tends to be missed nowadays.
Yeah.
Canadian.
No, I'm very envious. I'm so envious.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Let's just all move.
Yeah.
Together.
I'm there.
So moving away from our families, because we all kept that really tight to the chest, like no one shared anything deep. We're just like la da da. Let's say this. Mrs. Snarky came close talking about her mom, so I'll give her props, right?
Yay, props!
I did it.
That's true. You did. That's true. But let's move like a step away from close friends and family. So I actually had this experience on Facebook that, of course, Facebook is the worst place for these kind of conversations, right? Yeah. Well, So I think I was supporting one of the girls that we went to school with, who had deconverted on a topic, whether I think it was abortion or not being a Christian anymore or whatever. And this particular person just got very angry at, this woman. We'll call her Joan. Her name is not Joan at all. She's not a Joan, but we'll call her Joan. So this person got really mad at Joan, and all I did was say, "Hey, look, all she's saying is this," and he berated me, saying, "I didn't know that you weren't close to God anymore," and da 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 da. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was just trying to explain her standpoint. I was not stating any of my own views or opinions, and the fire that comes from these people, and I don't mean Christians, right? I'm talking about people who are sure about their beliefs and knowledge, and are dogmatic about it. The fire that comes from is so misplaced, right? Because it's like this person was mad at me for defending someone unbiasedly, right? It's like, what?
How dare you not root for the team?
Yeah.
I wish I had the conversation, but I got deleted soon after, of course. So.
Oh, I hate when that happens because then you don't get to engage.
Yeah.
Do you guys have strategies? I have some strategies that I employ when that happens because I engage in these types of conversations all the time. And a lot of them require me to just fucking swallow it. Sorry, my French. But a lot of the times the initial visceral attack, I have to write off as, okay, what you aren't attacking me personally because you don't know me. Really. And even if you do know me, you're not attacking me personally. You're attacking your perception of what somebody like me is like based on this position. And it's based on either a pile of biased misconceptions that have been plugged into your head or another pile of really nasty interactions you've had in forums like this that you feel as though represent someone like me. So what I need to do in order to counteract that is to be the antithesis of that, as hard as it might be, and be calm and attempt understanding in a situation where understanding is not only not called for, attack and defense would be justified and relevant in that situation. So I have to just go, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I understand you've probably had a lot of arguments about these types of things. What I'm attempting to do in this situation is better understand I, like you, want to know the truth. I believe something different than you, but that doesn't mean we can't have a conversation. Do you believe that we can have a conversation even though we believe different things? And usually that tends to disarm them because they either have to admit, no, I refuse to have conversations with somebody who believes things differently than me, or stop, take a breath, and reassess and say, okay, maybe, but I had these bad interactions with people like you. You just have to work past the people like you scenarios in that situation and try to get to the root of what their problem is in these types of interactions and prove them wrong. That's my strategy generally. Do you guys have strategies that are similar or different that I can learn from? Because holy shit, sometimes I need help.
I was just going to say, I tried to implement the Stoic principles in this, and that what people say about me and my reputation is indifferent. And it's not good. I'm not even going to remember this interaction years from now. So I might as well engage in a way that is useful. And if it's not useful, then I'm going to put a bunny picture up or something, So
she does that all the time too.
I do.
She's not kidding. She does it constantly.
I'm flooding Twitter with bunnies.
Snarky's right mad again. Snarky's angry again. There's a bunny up on Twitter. You're very good. You're very good at that, though.
It also disarms them. And a lot of times you can't have conversations with some of these people. You just can't. Even if you are genuinely trying, like I've done like the street epistemology thing where I'd ask questions and engage with people, and I've had them literally admit to me that they did not care about the truth. All they cared about is what made them feel good. And once you get to that point, where do you go from there? I mean,
sometimes you have to abandon a conversation, especially with a stranger.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
You want to set the world on fire and get a reaction because they get off on that reaction. You have to kind of gauge for yourself. through the initial interaction, like if you can be calm and rational through the initial, which sometimes, holy shit, so sometimes that's not easy, but you have to be able to remain calm for that portion so that you can at least assess whether this is somebody that's been hurt by conversations and is defensive, because atheists legitimately attack the shit out of people too and act like assholes online all the time. They do the same things, right? They wander around being dickheads and give the rest of us a bad name who actually want to engage in these dialogues. So you have to assess if it's a person who's been constantly put on the defense and hurt by that, or somebody and really wants to engage in conversation but is just done with being attacked just like we are, or somebody who is just out there because they want to swing their dick around on the internet. And those people exist, but usually you can tell within a couple of tweets or a couple of Facebook interactions or conversation.
I'm curious for all of you. So I don't really experience this, but that's because I'm a coward and I don't I don't really put myself out there online. And maybe I should more, but I don't like confrontation. I'm really bad at it. Although I am getting better, but it's just not my personality type. Anyway, so I'm really interested. So I'm just absorbing and getting lots of good tips from all of you. I was curious to know if like all three of you could talk about like how as women in particular, like do you find that you get, I don't know, attacked more because you're women, and if so, how? Or is it not really different from like what you viewed happening to men? Or I don't know, I'm just curious about how the gender element plays into this.
For me, definitely. I got into an argument the other day. I was the only woman in this thread on Twitter, and consequently the only woman that they threatened to stalk. Okay,
wow.
so yeah, I mean, I experience a lot of that kind of stuff, but I mean, you really have to have thick skin to be online. You do. And especially to have an opinion online. It is crazy, especially the more people you interact with and things. And Shannon knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. I get overtly, explicitly sexual comments on a frequent basis. That's not a measure what I get the most of, though. The most of what I get are really fantastic positive comments or dismissive, like stupid atheist comments. It's the rare offshoot that's an explicitly bad, sexual, or threatening comment, but it happens. And a lot of the dismissive comments are attached to me being a female as well. Like I've been called out by apologists online as being a little girl. And
wow.
I'm not that little. I'm 5 little. But you have to be able to shoulder it. You have to be able to understand that there's a certain group of people who, if they can't engage the argument you're making, will go to what they think is going to hurt you most. And if they think attacking you sexually or attacking you because of your gender is what's going to hurt you most, that's what they're going to go for, because they're grasping at straws because they don't have anything else. And I see that as a badge of honor, and I just ignore them until they fade into the distance. Let them scream into the dark, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and some of them, like, if they get really, really explicit and violent and just absolutely vile, I recommend blocking. Like, I'm one of those people that I'm not going to be block shamed. No way. There are vicious, horrible people out there, and I'm going to protect myself.
Safety is paramount.
Yes.
Absolutely. I agree. Emotional, mental, and physical safety, like those are all paramount.
Yes.
Shouldn't put yourself in a threatening situation just because you put yourself in a position where you're an advocate or you're in the public or contributing to the public dialogue. That doesn't entitle anybody to threaten you and then still have access to you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say that I personally I haven't had a lot of issues. I'm very, like you, Heather, I'm not as active online. And so I think that helps. Most of the people that I encounter, males and females alike, who I discuss my religion with, are already very open to the conversation, whether they're, Jesus followers or you know, or atheists themselves, or so I don't actually. I think maybe for me, it's sort of the idea of cherry picking who I decide to talk to about these things, because they still are pretty personal to me because of just how much time I've spent in my life thinking about them.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole part of my brain, the uncovered one, is all just like my hair. What a terrible part. But it's all like deconversion. And so I'm not going to give that to someone who is going to rip it. I mean, lobotomize that part of my brain, right? Like, I'm not going to let that happen. And so I think that's my key, is just being selective. And the people online are like, that's what they are. You can actually like take the humanity out of a lot of people online because they are doing it themselves.
Yes.
Oh,
that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true. It's so easy to disconnect from who you really are when you get online. It's just, yeah. And I think on some level, like, I have a lot of anxiety, a lot of, things like that. So it's a lot easier for me to communicate online. But yeah, at the same time, it's really difficult to get to know people on more personal, intimate levels. But yeah, I can see what you mean by that. I would be very, very selective with who I have conversations with as well. I am usually, but it's kind of difficult whenever you have a channel and you're trying to get people to like come and see your channel, and
yeah, that's Iowan's fault. It's Iowan's fault.
Yeah. God
Blame
damn it.
Iowan.
Yeah, he comes over here and he just like crashes the party, just sticks his face in and everything.
Oh my goodness.
Straw face everywhere.
This straw face all over the place.
Yeah.
So do you guys, aside from online interactions, do these types of conversations ever come up for you guys in just sort of casual interactions in your real life since deconversion? I'm not even speaking about like friends or family members. Have you ever met, old acquaintances or somebody where it comes up where they viewed you in a specific light because they saw you as, I guess, part of their tribe initially, and all of a sudden they find this out about you and it changes their perception of who you are, even though you're the same goddamn person. You just believe so, like, because I found that. Do you guys find that at all? Like, people's perceptions shift, and how do you deal with that?
Definitely. I've had that happen. I had a friend that, in high school, she went to high school. I was homeschooled, but I've known her ever since then. We've been through a lot together, and we hadn't talked for a few years. And at the time she knew me, I was Christian and everything. But recently, like last year, she began calling me and we started kind of developing this relationship again. And she was going to come out and visit and stuff like that. She was talking about her church. I didn't say anything. And then she's like, well, do you go to a church? And I'm like, no, I'm an atheist. And she's like, what? It's just totally changed everything. And I haven't heard from her since.
Wow.
So
that sucks.
That's tough.
Yeah, she was like my best friend, and it was a big blow, really.
Everything about how she viewed you, just that one thing, just you changing your mind about that one thing.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. That's awful.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, it was hurtful, at the time, because it was like, wow, I didn't think this one thing would be such a big deal, but apparently it is. So you just kind of come to terms with it and you move on. But yeah, that kind of thing, sadly, happens often in relationships. I've lost a lot of friends deconverting from even the woo stuff.
So that's actually interesting, because like that is a lack of a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Like she didn't even give you the chance, really, to have that difficult time, conversation to get through that time. Well, that sucks.
It does
I know
suck.
for me, oh yeah. I know for me, many so many of my Christian friends thought I was a slutty whore when I was a Christian. And so when they got to know me later in life,
One of them might have
they
been
were
me.
much more they were much more embracing of who I was and accepting when they realized that I wasn't as promiscuous as they thought. So, but yeah, no, I definitely was, and I think I was viewed better as an agnostic or as a deconvert than I was as a Christian by everyone. So
That's interesting because I think I have a slightly different experience with a lot of the people that are part of the church that Christine and I attended. I actually can relate to what you were saying, Mrs. Snarky, about like feeling, or I guess like maybe you didn't say this explicitly, but what I was getting from you was like feeling like really hurt and like abandoned almost because this person, you thought they were close to you and they didn't even want to have that conversation. And I felt that, and I still like, I get very sad. I was very close to a lot of women in our church, and none of them reached out to me at all when I left our church and to try and have a conversation. And even though that also would have been stressful, I was
hurtful,
really, I was really hurt by that. And it was very awkward. So yeah, specific anecdote is that when I went back to my hometown for my sister's wedding a few years, this was about like 6 years ago now. And it was difficult because I had to interact with some of these people because my sister was still a Christian and was still close to some of these women in the church. And so they were like a part of the wedding related events like the bachelorette party and the bridal shower and stuff. And so that also, so I was already feeling hurt. And then there was like added tension of, I think they were doing to me what I did to Christine at one point, which is, I think they had a lot of assumptions that and I still think they probably have a lot of assumptions that I'm like crazier than I actually am. Like, I'm like this.
Deconverting makes you immediately be like, I'm going to have sex with all the people and buy a gun and drink booze and smoke weed and do crack. And I am just going to like lose my shit and do all of the sins because I can.
Yeah, I really, that's what they thought of me. And so like, it was really awkward because I was in charge of planning the bachelorette party and I was trying to be respectful and was like, we're just going to do wine and cheese. That's what my sister wanted. And it was this big problem. And I think a lot of the problem is that they thought I was like this bad influence on my sister, even though it was my sister who wanted said, I want the wine.
Booze?
Right, I know. And
the atheist brought the booze.
And it was such a tame bachelorette party too. I mean, all we did was drink wine and open presents. I mean, it wasn't even anything crazy. Anyway, so yeah, it's tough. That was a tough experience for me, like just going back and having have those interactions.
Yeah, it is tough. And you'd think that people that you spent so much time and energy in relationships with as friends would at least try to put that energy back into maintaining it.
Yeah.
That's the hurtful part. It seems like it doesn't, you don't matter enough to even have the conversation with. That's what really gets me.
Makes you understand a little bit about what some friendships are contingent upon.
Yeah.
The divorce told me that, and deconversion told me that. Like both of those things told me that very clearly. There was a very clear line of delineation that, okay, our friendship was contingent upon me being married to this person, or our friendship was contingent upon me believing this thing. That friendship, as much as it meant to me and as much as I thought it was genuine, it was contingent upon that. Otherwise, you would try to be able to still see me as the person you saw me with before this thing happened, this arbitrary thing that changed me not as an individual human. But like, it tells you a lot about how relationships form and, you know, what they're based on. And that hurts to feel.
Yeah. And it makes you feel kind of insecure, you know, like, am I not a good enough person that people genuinely can like me for who I am? And it's just really sad to deal with.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, you know, Snarky, like, do people you do end up sort of thinking a lot on yourself in that way, like, what is it about me that makes me like so undesirable? Like, I thought, oh, and then like you end up losing people and you're like, wait a minute, what, I was a badass friend, you know. But I do think that in moments like that, it's important to put yourself in their shoes. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding going on. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of like, it's kind of like the way that you feel when someone's, you know, family member or friend dies. You know, it's really like, what do I say? Like, our common ground has been shaken. And not only that, like, it's not, this isn't just with Christians either. You know, it happens a lot in many fields when you transition from being a single individual to married, when you transition from being, you know, a couple to having kids, you know, these transitions happen a lot. And you do sort of have those difficult transitions that you're like, I don't know how to talk to you anymore because we're at different stages. And I think using that as a tool can be really helpful to spin it around and be like, okay, well, what were things that we had in common that weren't related to this? And maybe, if, you know, reaching back out, if they let you, you know, sounds like a lot of these people don't really allow that, but reaching back out and saying, hey, remember the time when, you know. And I think that would work with people online too. Who knows? I don't know. Let me know.
That's pretty, I think that's actually very brilliant, because
It's valuable. Yeah.
we have a tendency to, at least I do, be very, very self-centered, I guess. I'm looking at the impact of myself. And since I do this, I'm pretty sure most other people are doing that as well. They're looking at, well, this is going to make me uncomfortable. And it might not even have anything to do with me. It might just be how they're feeling about it. So yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Both of you just said really wise things there that I'm learning from right now. It's because I had a little epiphany there. I assume other people have stopped interacting with me or chosen to interact with me in a certain way because of the reasons that I've assigned to them. And the reasons that I've assigned to them may not even be remotely close to the reasons they actually have for the way they're interacting with me. They could be interacting with me because in that fashion because they assume that now I'm uncomfortable with them.
Yeah.
And if I don't blow past that wall, if I don't make the conscious decision to say, hey, you know, I noticed that there's a little bit of a strain between the two of us and our relationship was really important to me. You know, if you feel like it's something that we should move on from, I'm glad to have a conversation about that in part ways. But if you feel like it's valuable to you, like it is to me, maybe we should have a discussion about how to retain it. Like that's because that's a lot of the times I'm guilty of this. I've been so busy being like, you don't like me now because of this. And that's your problem. That's not my problem. That's your problem. So off you go then. Like, I'm so guilty of that.
Yeah.
And that's on me. Because they might really be wanting to retain a relationship with me too and thinking the exact same thing. Oh, she's an atheist now, or oh, she's divorced now, or oh, she has kids now, and she doesn't want to have a relationship with me the same way it did before and isn't willing to explore the evolution of what that relationship can be going forward. But those are I learned a lot from you two, and yeah, those are valuable things to say. Thank you. I'm done. Ending. Oh no! Christine's mic drop. Christine's
Yeah.
like,
That was great. She just
mic drop.
Yeah,
I'm done.
her job was done, so she's out.
Right, everybody. You just learned the best thing ever, and I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'm
the
done.
timing was perfect.
Yeah, there was no way to follow that, was there, Christine? So you just had to.
I just left. She said, "Off you go," and there I went.
We figured you were mic dropping. We figured you were like, yeah, that was.
My internet went out at that very moment.
Oh no!
It was perfect. It was
Serendipity. That's crazy.
Absolutely ideal.
Hilarious.
If you're gonna drop it once in this conversation, that's the best conceivable time to do it.
So one question that I have is, when do you know that there's absolutely no moving forward? I mean, if it's not the point to where they insult you because of where they're coming from, and it's not the point to where they've abandoned you because, you have different beliefs or whatever, and they're not comfortable with it. Like, at what point do you say, you know what, this is not worth me putting my energy into?
That's a good question.
That's so subjective because it totally depends on the relationship. Like, if it was a father or a child.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a child, for sure, I would never run out of energy.
Well, let's say that it's just a friend of yours or something like that. Let's leave the.
I'd run out of energy. I would. I really would. I would feel like it's a cost benefit weight.
Yeah.
There,
yeah.
right?
I think that,
Very
That's
pragmatic. Right. I like the pragmatic approach.
I agree. Like, I think it's like my approach, and I've had this happen about some other things, not like deconversion, but I've had a couple of like friendship situations where I've decided to end friendships. And it's always like in that situation, like Shannon, you're saying, where I have been putting a lot of energy into a friendship, and over a long period of time, feeling like this person is not putting the energy in as well. And so it was feeling very one-sided. But I, in those situations, I give people time. I do think it's good to give people time because other things could be going on. So I'm talking about extreme. Yeah. Like, I think, I don't know if it's just like, if it just feels prolonged and you're the only one putting in, because it has to be a two-way. I mean, it does have to be that they also care about trying to work on the relationship.
So I agree. It's funny. Heather and I actually had an instance where I didn't talk to her for a while. I was just doing my own thing for a while, but she reached out to me and she said, "Hey, yo, like, wake up. Like, I'm still here." And it was really great. It was really great because I really think it like launched our closer friendship. But I think that's sort of like the fill your bucket book, where the title, because I've read the title and not the rest, just
I don't know. But it's a great book. It's so
I don't know what this right? It's just so I think that when someone starts to drain you, you just have to be honest with yourself, and maybe honest with them if you have the energy to just say, like, okay, what is it? And of course, like, I'm not saying you have to get a ton from your friends, right? I'm a giver, so I enjoy, that's a big piece of who I am, is calling my friends who haven't talked to me in 6 months, because I'm like, hey, I like you. I'm just reminding you, and those friends, are close enough that it doesn't matter. But if those friends started to drain me, or even people online, even like interactions, strangers, acquaintances, I think I invest less in them. So it's not about like changing my conversation level or anything. It's my investment of self in what they think. You know what I mean? Like, I care a lot what you guys think. If Shan was like change your lipstick color, Christine. I would be like, okay, Shannon, 100%, I will.
I am not in a position to give anybody makeup advice for the record.
All right, then it's I guess Courtney needs to wear it, right? It's
Courtney.
Yeah, Courtney. Yeah, her lipstick is always spot on.
On point, yeah. So anyway, but
I
I'm
use
just
this
saying
plus
that.
Dex.
Hey, that works.
Nice. Very nice. So anyway, but I think that it would be something that I cared a lot about. But if it was someone who I felt drained by, I would be like, I don't care what you think of my makeup. So great advice. I would allow them. I give them a lot of space, those people, and I say thank you for your advice. That's a great suggestion, and I try to give them their honeypot, right? Not too much, but enough that they'll just leave me alone, and I can take my investment out of them. So that is that is a way that I work through it.
So you'd maintain the relationship, but on a tangential level, arm's length sort of.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the input. It's nice to, interact with you. Hope you're doing well, but not actually incorporate or assimilate any information from them about you into your perception of yourself.
Right. And specifically about me. I allow them to affect my, if they come up with new science or information or something or a new idea, I allow them to to still influence that part while taking my emotions away from them. Yeah. So that's a good description, Shannon, I think. So we're 1 minute. Shannon, don't you usually leave at 10?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. We can go a little bit over if you guys want. I don't want to. This is a good conversation. If you guys want to go, do you have anything else that you guys want to talk about before I go? I hate to just abruptly stop or anything.
No,
that's okay. I thought
it's actually 11 p.m. in my imaginary time zone. That doesn't really
right. I forgot your time zone. The time
that nobody recognized. And when you type it into Google, it just tells you Ontario time. Nova Scotia is not even a place.
Google's I can't find you.
It doesn't even exist.
That's funny. No, I just want to say, it's funny because this is not the conversation I thought we would have. It's very funny how much we went from where I thought it would go, but I'm happy that it did. But I think I'm just happy to have you all here, and it's it's great to be with bright women. It's just I just don't get this where I get to talk to intelligent women. It happens once a month. I mean, I have some close friends,
except when you talk to Heather and the rest of us in the chat.
That's fair. That's fair. Publicly. No, but it's really nice.
Yeah. It is nice. It feels very nourishing every time. Yeah.
It's not a difficult conversation at all.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Even though the topics are difficult topics, we seem to do very well with them, and we're comfortable discussing them. It was. I also wanted to highlight something that was said in the chat. I forget who said it. I think it was Dan, but I'm not sure. That it's a lot easier to have these difficult conversations as non-believers because we're not tied to, we can't question God, or we can't discuss sex, or we can't discuss this or that. We're not limited in that way. We're not given this idea that it's naughty to even think about certain things. So,
and we want to question our beliefs.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
we want to learn. We want to actually get to the truth, and we want to get there in a way that is healthy for us, that is really healthy. And I think that that's awesome.
It's wonderful that we all understand the value of scrutiny.
Yes.
The scrutiny is an attack. It's a way for you to better your position and strengthen your position and reassess your position in a way that either affirms it or makes you realize, okay, maybe I need to reassess this. And I'm so glad that you guys asked to be on my channel today. And for the record, I would have been here anyway, Christine.
I know.
But I'm like, I really hope more people go and subscribe to Secular Hangouts because we do need more female voices.
Yeah.
So that people have someone that they can identify with. That, you know, there's female secularists and atheists and humanists, and we're all engaging in these amazing conversations and dialogues, and you are welcome to join us. And we hope that you can find something that you identify with. And because it's so, in my life, I don't know if you guys feel the same, it's very difficult for me to find people that I can discuss these issues that surround deconversion and atheism and secularism and humanism with, because most of the people in my life are theists of some fashion, or are averse to this type of conversation because they're afraid of what it means if they have it. And so it's difficult to satiate myself with these types of dialogues. So I thank you for being an avenue where I can do that with other women, because there's value in that. And, you know, I talk to all kinds of boys, and they're cool and they're awesome, but it's nice to be able to chat with the chicks every once in a while.
Definitely.
Yeah. I loved what you. Yeah, thanks very much, Anna. I love what you said about scrutiny. We are very much so the most bitchy, least bitchy people that I've ever met. Right?
We make it work somehow, y'all.
We're surgically bitchy.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that. I like that.
That's right. We pick our moments and we do it with precision. Only when it's called for. You don't cut somebody open for nothing. You cut them open when it's necessary.
Love it.
All right, I have to read a couple of super chats before we go, and I thank you so much for the super chats. Yay, you guys are awesome. And I have to hit refresh because my computer is a pile of garbage, but I saw that I got them. Oh, Mentally Diseased is a fabulous channel, by the way. Go click. I'm gonna have him on, actually. Okay, this is a super double secret, but him and Telltale and Lloyd Evans are going to be coming on my channel probably in early March together, and I'm pretty pumped about it. I just found his channel recently, and a guy named Alexi, who's also a wonderful XJW, turned me on to his channel, and I am absolutely enamored.
Oh, it's such a good
so
channel.
Articulate. Oh, I'm so glad you know about it already.
Oh,
Jen.
yeah.
It's great. I binged it.
I watched one of the videos, and I couldn't stop crying. It was just so touching. It's such a good channel.
Was it his deconversion video, the one that I posted on Twitter?
The gay XJW one?
Yes, not the coming out story, but where he got disfellowshipped. He got disfellowshipped, yes. Oh my gosh. Everybody should go watch his channel right now. Yes. Do it. Just go, please subscribe to his channel, because it's absolutely amazing. So you can familiarize yourself with him before he comes here. And also, thank you. He said 1 more minute. Eventually, I'll read your super chat. Sorry. Gemma Scout said, this conversation is so validating. I'm so glad, Gemma. Thank you. I'm glad that you found that here, and I'm glad that we could help provide that for you. Godless Iowan said, now where's my wrench? And he said that 15 minutes after I already gave him a wrench, so he can suck it. And he also said, Miss Snarky's hat, HAW hat. And he's right. That's correct. And Vibrantly Brantley, who you should also go sub to. He's a great guy. He's got a very fantastic sense of humor. Just nothing for $1. So, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And thank you to everybody who watched, and thank you to all of you. And please go check out the Secular Hangouts. The link is in the description, so you can see us at the beginning of every month. And I'll be at the next one, even if it's not on my channel. And go check out all of these wonderful women's links in the description, and also the links of our 2 friends, Rachel and Courtney, who weren't able to join us today, who are usually part of this group. And as always, help elevate the discourse. Thanks, chat. Bye.